Welcome back to Beyond the Tour. I'm Jake. We're up to episode 35. With me, as always, is Luke. How are you?
Jake, can't believe we're at episode 35. They just seem to be whipping through the numbers, don't they?
Yeah, I know. It's very quickly happens, but it's not really a chore getting on each week, is it?
No, when you love talking about golf, it makes it pretty easy. So hopefully it's an easy listen too for our listeners.
Yep. Lots of golf on over the weekend. I think this possibly was one of the better weekends in terms of having lots of golf because the majority of them outside of the LPGA, PGA were in different time zones. So for any golf tragics, you could watch it all.
You could watch a fair bit of golf, couldn't you? And there was some interesting stuff happened over the weekend. I mean, Waste Management's always a good event. You had the season opener for LIV. Interesting sort of tournament down here in Australia with the Victorian Open. So, yeah, lots to choose from.
Yeah, let's kick off with LIV in Riyadh. So it was a season opener, won by Adrian Maronk, who was essentially the 3-round leader pretty much. So he didn't look well. It got a little bit close. Not really, though, but he was fairly well in control.
Yeah, a few little wobbles there that maybe the commentary team made more of than what was truly the case. But in the end, closed it out with a 2-shot victory, not really in trouble.
Yeah. Their course, I guess, or night golf or golf under lights was, I guess, the highlight. They did an incredible job presenting it the way they did. I know we spoke last week briefly on presentation of under lights and getting that white light versus that yellow sort of light. But all in all, they did a pretty impressive job, I think.
Yeah, I think the coverage of the tournament under lights was a great effort from the broadcast team. And, obviously there's some question marks over the actual location itself. We know why it's played there. Obviously, it's part of, Saudi Arabia's journey into being more of a tourist economy, and the role that the PIF is playing in that by buying into LIV or creating LIV, shall we say, and then having some of these tournaments here at Riyadh and also the Jeddah event. So understand it, but it'd be great to have packed galleries as well under lights, wouldn't it?
I think
really have some juice.
That's the key. You're seeing social posts about, Waste Management is the blueprint for putting on an event. We're going to see them again next week, but LIV Adelaide is the blueprint for putting on the event. Realistically, what the blueprint is, it doesn't really matter about the golf per se. It's the crowd. If you've got a packed stadium, you've got the Super Bowl in a packed stadium. It's the fans that make the event.
100%. You want, even watching on TV, you want the atmosphere to be coming through in what you're seeing on the vision. And of course, it's a free kick to detractors to straight away say, well, there's no one there. So what's it even worth watching for? But yeah, it was definitely interesting to see it under lights. I did see even some of the PGA Tour fanboys were converts of night golf. I had what's his name, Kyle Porter there tweeting out that night golf rules. In the same tweet, I found it quite interesting that he said that the live line, or the putting line as he referred to it, was certainly additive to him. And what stood out for me there was obviously how very little LIV golf he must have watched to be passing comment on the live line, because it's not something new by any stretch of the imagination. And then, of course, the next question is, well, isn't it his job as a golf journalist to actually be watching some golf? Maybe he's not watching LIV every minute, but the fact that he was new to the LIV line really stood out to me.
I think just having an open mind around it as well. I think that's probably half the issue. Like particularly in the US, they've got such a closed mind around LIV that a lot of these guys, when they sit down and actually watch it, yes, sure, that's a little bit quirky here and there, and it's maybe overblown some of the commentary, which is getting better. But if you sit down and watch the actual product, it's a bloody good golf product. And I think some of these guys are starting to not wake up to it. they're seeing it, and it's going to continue along that way as well. We're going to see NLU, and you saw a little bit from the shotgun start. Brendan Porath seemed to be enjoying it a little bit more than he has previously as well.
Yeah, I think what they do is like it's become it's become a product that can't be ignored. If you're serious about covering world golf. And so what I find with these guys, NLU, Porter, Andy Johnson, is that they'll say enough about it to sort of show that it's there's been some minimal curiosity, but then they straight away play back to their base. They don't swim too far from the flags, and it's kind of like you give with one hand and take with the other. They might pay a mild compliment to LIV, like what Kyle did. And then 2 seconds later, he's retweeting Colt taking the piss out of LIV's ratings on Fox Sports. So, it's kind of, they can't sort of drift too far from their base or they'll get whacked.
Yeah, I think so, and it just makes sense. And at some point, I think it will. The way things are looking at, I think at some point these guys are going to get right behind it. Like at some point, But it'd be annoying for us or a lot of the early adopters, because you'd be kicking up a stink like these. It's sort of like what Brandel's doing now a little bit, but
yeah,
I think that's a fact. It doesn't matter what we say. Like everyone will forget and these guys will follow it, and then things will just continue on.
Yeah, and we'll get to talking about Big J's trip to the White House and what that might do for reconciliation or reunification of world golf. But you can definitely see those guys riding fast on the coattails if it does happen.
Yep. Legion 13 had a very strong performance, kicked off by Tom and Kibben in that first round. Rahm and Hatton finished very strongly as well. Those two in particular, they're definitely standouts on LIV. Maybe you could sort of argue to a certain extent that Waco has been sort of in there. Brooks, I guess you add to it as well. And I guess Bryson, not so much LIV, but on the world in the major stage, he's been pretty decent. But Rahm, Hatton, clearly the best players on LIV at the moment.
Certainly the most consistent, aren't they?
Yeah.
And making it pretty tough for all the other teams when you throw in McKibben playing well, and Surratt obviously played well today. So making it very hard for the other teams to sort of feature up the top end of the leaderboard, trying to take out the team event there. You do certainly feel it's going to be another strong year for Legion 13, and really keen to see how Rahm and Hatton go at the majors this year and really give it a shake, hopefully.
Yep. Rippers finished off very strongly. It looked like early on they were not going so well. Matty Jones was sort of hovering towards the bottom of the leaderboard, which I was sort of not happy with, but I was like, well, this is what happens when you don't try to improve your side. But you
had your chance.
Yeah, but they performed really well in the last day.
They did play well. Certainly Herbie got it going in that final round, didn't he? And were outright second coming into the last hole off the back of a good birdie from Herbert on the 17th. But and he sprayed his tee shot right into the drink. And,
weird choice. Weird shot choice, I thought.
Yeah, he took 3-wood, right?
Yeah.
And I think the commentators are surprised at shot choice there. Also, I mean, the tournament, there was some outside chance of him featuring, maybe forcing a playoff if he, birdied 18.
He was able to get the eagle.
So that's right. You think he might have pulled a big stick and had a real lash. So anyway, he obviously had some sort of strategy in mind. I wonder whether he wasn't comfortable on that particular tee shot with the driver and wanted to, sort of on the side of caution by taking 3-wood. But he probably should have pulled driver given the result.
Cam Smith was he wasn't fantastic, was he?
No, not too much to talk about for Smithy. He had a decent opening round of 67, but 72-70 on round 2 and round 3 kind of never really got going, right? He finished 10 shots back of the leader in a 54 man field, and you're probably not playing your best golf, right?
Yep. Yeah, and just briefly touched on him. Tom McKibben, it was a good performance, top 15 or a T15. Yeah, I think he probably justified his signing a little bit there as well. To me, I was probably a little bit unexpected. We don't generally see the younger guys come in and perform straight away. So it was good to see.
Yeah, as you say, I guess the signings that we've seen of the young players, or the players that are kind of upgrading, or established players that are upgrading from the lesser known tours, certainly takes them a while to try and find their feet and start making an impact. But he was able to do that pretty much out of the gates. So expecting big things from here.
Yeah, I think so. I guess we had a lot of the usual suspects down the bottom of the leaderboard, didn't we?
Yeah. Anthony Kim still just not able to get under par enough, really, is he? Like, he just floats around that sort of even 1 over 1 under sort of mark, and it's just not able to make any traction. And then, yeah, as you say, you kind of got the usual suspects right down the bottom. I guess the signings that we saw this year, we thought maybe that might strengthen that bottom portion of the ladder, but I still think there's a period of ironing out that needs to go. I did see some stat maybe after round 1 or 2 about how poorly the Ironheads had been playing. So, definitely some work to do for them after they were pretty excited about the new Korean guy that they'd signed.
Yeah, it might take a little bit to sort of see that sort of, him just to sort of get his footing really on the league.
Yep.
But I'm a little bit worried about the Four Aces. They're certainly a very aging team.
You think they're missing Pat Perez? Is that they've lost the chemistry?
He's been a good pickup on the broadcast side though, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I said last week or the week before I thought Pat would be rocks or diamonds on the broadcast. He's certainly an interesting character, and maybe it might be a bit like David Ferrity, right? Because initially when you listen to David, you kind of like his humour and his wit. It can sort of miss the mark early on. And I kind of liken it to Kerry O'Keefe on the cricket as well, right? Yep. There's that oddball, quirky style. But over time, they can kind of grow on you and you end up having them just as an ingrained part of your experience.
It's not necessarily the humour, it's the person, isn't it? Or it's yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see how Pat goes. But I think a better first up effort than I was expecting. It seemed quite natural, didn't he?
He did, yeah, he did. I watched a little bit. It was one of the after shows where they did a walk and talk, and they were on the putting green for a while, and they went and sort of just grabbed a whole bunch of different players. But he was really good on that, very natural on that. Similar to like a Johnson Wagner style of content. Yep. It was good. It was good. Now we had it was the first weekend for Fox, the Fox broadcast deal. Also, so was it ITV in the UK?
ITV for the UK, that's right. Yep. And then Fox Sports. I can't remember if it was Fox Sports 1 or Fox Sports 2 in the US.
2 in that first round, which is where we saw 12,000 viewership in terms of the ratings. That was pounced upon by most LIV detractors, and it's fair enough. It's a terrible number, but I think the reality is that the whole purpose of a broadcast deal is to get an audience. LIV don't have an audience, so LIV is not bringing anything to any broadcast deal. They're trying to get the audience from a broadcast deal, and Fox Sport 2, apparently these numbers sort of line up with what you would regularly see in that slot. So I think
that's what
the first year we're going to be seeing. You can probably hypothesize that what's standard in a slot, depending on the channel you're on, is what LIV's going to get.
Yeah, and again, LIV is being judged by the PGA Tour standard, which is an established tour that's been around for decades and had a broadcast deal for decades, with existing commercial arrangements, etc. So no detracting from the fact they would have preferred to see more than 12,000 viewers for round one. But we're not comparing apples with apples with the pylon. We heard those comments from Colt Most around the 17th green there, 16th green at Waste Management, saying that there were 24,000 people there in attendance around that hole, which was 2 times 12. So, tongue in cheek. And then, of course, as I mentioned, you've got Cole Porter retweeting that. And then, Andy Johnson was saying he was just shocked about how bad those numbers were. I mean, again, the other thing is it doesn't take into account any of the subscription or international audience. It's not telling the whole story, but you would say the only way is up for LIV, right?
Yeah. I believe their subscription business is going to be successful. I doubt they're breaking. They're probably nowhere. They'll be losing a lot of money on it at the moment. But
for sure,
the majority, or not the majority, I think a lot of people are signing up to that for the ad-free experience and just access to any shot. So the model, I think, is a good one because you're not stuck in that. The PGA Tour couldn't follow this model because they rely on that income coming from the broadcast deals. Now, clearly that model is broken because the broadcasters have too much control over the broadcast and the product as well. So I think this model, this sort of mixed media model, is probably it's the modern way to do things. So I think LIV's in a strong position from that perspective. The audience for LIV is small. It's tiny. I don't even think it doesn't matter. You can say, everyone's watching on the app. There's not that many people watching on the app. There's not that many people watching anywhere. It's LIV. It hasn't got an audience.
Well, let's say it's got a growing audience.
Yeah.
But did you have any problems watching it on the app at all without ads? Because I had seen some stuff online that those that had paid the 60 or 70 bucks or 80 bucks, whatever it is, for the app, still could only watch the Riyadh event via LIV Plus, 7 Plus, in Australia, and they got ads.
Yeah. I had an issue because I had a subscription from last year, and that was still active until the end of this month. And so the new app was saying that the subscription was active, but I couldn't watch anything. And I couldn't cancel that subscription in the app. So I went through the process. I think I went through Google Play Store and canceled that and then resubscribed in the app for the next year. And then it worked fine. It was perfect.
Okay. With the new app.
With
So maybe it was
it's horrible. Their tech platformers, they've just completely screwed the pooch there.
Okay. So the transition from the old app to the new app created problems.
And the new app is terrible. It's horrible. Any shot, any time is not working. So you can't watch any shot. I found just randomly, just in the app and also on the website, I was trying to watch the replay of the broadcast, and it's not available in any particular spot. I think I ended up finding it just by watching some other content randomly, and so it's horrible. The fact that this should have been tested, and it should have been rolled out a lot earlier.
And even when you go to the home screen of the app, one of the tabs down the bottom is not the leaderboard. You've got to click and then click again to get to the leaderboard. It's just craziness. It should be one of the very first things you see.
Yeah. So a lot to improve on that side. Hopefully it happens pretty quickly. But I was happy. It was good to have LIV back. We've now got 12 individual opportunities for the rest of the year in terms of winning a LIV event. So they're quite scarce. Someone like a Herbie's in good form. We'd love to see him win one.
Yeah, I reckon he'd be really pumped to have a crack this coming week in Adelaide and take a title out on home soil. But of course, Leishman and Smithy will have something to say about that too.
Yep.
But yeah, it's it's all ahead for the season, and hopefully they have a really good one.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now on to the waste management. So we saw Tom Detry win that one comfortably, sort of 4 shots. He was solid going into the back 9. He's, I guess, the winning shot really is probably his tee shot on 16. She sort of stiffed it.
Pretty good, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, Detry has struggled, sort of holding the lead or being around the lead going into the final round. And Data Golf had tweeted about this, going into Sunday's final round. So, he starts the back 9 on Sunday with a 4-shot lead, which he increased, I think, to 5 shots. But then, Berger made a bit of a run, reduced the lead to 3, and probably should have had a real chance of reducing it even further because Detry was out of position on 14 right in the rough behind a tree. And Berger was middle of the fairway with a wedge in hand. Detry hits a pretty good shot to get onto the green for 2. And then Berger dunks his approach shot into the greenside trap and then just barely gets out. So probably should have made bogey, but was lucky to chip in for par, but certainly a missed opportunity there. And then Detry just comes and slams the door shut with 4 birdies on the trot to finish, 15 through 18. So certainly shook the monkey off the back in terms of his jitteriness, around the lead or in the lead in the final round. And I was surprised that he, no significant wins on the PGA Tour or the DP World Tour. His last win, was he's got 1 tour win on the Challenge Tour. So really a huge moment for him to take out this event with the quality of the field that was there.
Yeah, definitely. He looked. Yeah, he doesn't really have a weakness at the moment. Really, he's pretty sort of well-rounded game.
His weakness was probably closing things out.
Yeah.
And so when you slam a door shut with 4 on the trot, you've got it in you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Europeans are dominating the PGA Tour in the early stages. So we've 3 of the last four winners of events have been Europeans. I think the top 4 or 5 on the FedEx Cup list are all Europeans. So they're sort of, coming to Bethpage at the end of this year. It's going to be interesting there. They're looking quite good.
Yeah. So I want to definitely maintain that form going into Bethpage because I think they're going to need every little ounce of it.
Yep. Good to see Berger back. He is someone that I reckon we've missed for the last couple of years. Like he's pretty good to watch. He's pretty entertaining as well. Like you saw his press conference. He's got tickets.
Yeah, he's a personality, right?
He is.
And that's what we like to see. His personality is probably better to observe than his swing. Very awkward looking swing.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's sort of been a little bit in the wilderness there for a while, but certainly gave this one a fair shake, even though he came up short. And then I think it was good to see Jordan back in contention, even though he kind of didn't have enough steam to really feature as it closed down. Golf is better with Spieth towards the top of the leaderboard, just the same as it is with Justin Thomas.
Yep.
Was interesting. He looked a lot more confident off the tee, Spieth,
Yes.
and you could see that just in his ball flight and the way that he was striking the ball. And I heard the commentators talking about his takeaway and he's focused on having a much steeper takeaway in order to allow him to shallow the club better in the downswing. And that, in this period where he's been struggling, he's had like 3 or 4 different swing thoughts going through his head. So hopefully he's been able to sort all that out and we see him featuring more prominently on leaderboards. Did you see him make a Spieth-like par on the 11?
Yeah, it's great. He's so entertaining to watch. Like he's a genuine needle mover.
That's right. I mean, it was so typical Spieth to be sort of stymied behind the tree, have to hit a putter backwards. Only just got himself back into play. Like he could have been butted up against another tree. And then he hits it to 15 or 20 feet and then rolls the putt for par. And he didn't look surprised at all, did he?
Did you hear JT in the booth at all?
I didn't know. I did see a little bit of his post-round interview with Amanda Balionis, mainly talking about the hole-out eagle on 18, but I didn't catch him actually in the booth commentating.
Really good. He was awesome. I think a few years ago he was on. Was he involved in maybe the Ryder or the President's Cup or something like that as an on-course reporter? Actually, it might have been like the match maybe where he was the on-course reporter, and he's really good. He's a brilliant media performer, insightful, natural. So I think
loves the camera. There's a bit of feel about him, really, isn't it?
There is, yes, yeah. So I think what I sort of took, I guess, the fact he's so close to Tiger or perceivably so close to Tiger, I think it's a good way to get insights that are Tiger-esque, that are, but a little bit more clarity in some of the opinions.
Not punctuated with all those Tiger mannerisms, hey?
Yeah. So it was good to see. Scheffler, will he ever win on tour again?
I mean, he was going along quite nicely, and then just really fell in a hole in that back nine. He was only 4 shots back at one stage there on the back nine, but things really sort of come unstuck for him, particularly on 13, and then there were a couple of more stumbles coming home. But, he's coming back from injury, top 10 last week, in contention again this week, really just sort of gets back into the groove pretty quickly, doesn't he?
He'll probably win next week, the easier event to win.
The signature event.
Event. Chuck Hoffman, we spoke about him last week, and he's sort of back in the news again this week. Yeah,
did you see this?
I didn't really. I thought maybe I did, but I thought it was from a couple of years ago and it was just reposted.
Yeah, so Porath tweeted this one out, and he's there complaining about taking a drop, and he turned around after he took the drop and the ball rolled back into the water, and so then he was penalised further, and then the whole no wonder the guys wanting to jump ship comment came out. I think he has made that comment previously. The rules should be changed, no protection for players, etc. So, which I found quite laughable, really, because every week the PGA Tour rules officials are out there trying to protect the players, and give them free relief at every point in turn. But I do think he's got a point here. I mean, we saw this rule bite Ricky in the arse at the same course. I think it might have been the 17th hole, where he took a drop, went up to have a look at the green to see what his chip was, and it rolled back in. So anyway, that just seems silly, right? That's no fault of the player.
Yep.
So why should they be penalised?
Yep, correct. Now, I didn't see Ricky. Did you see him?
Well, it was hard to see, wasn't he? I tell you what, I saw some great memes though. So that camouflage outfit of his on day one really just said X alight, didn't it? And so, particularly the one where it was right up against the bush, and there were different angles of him, in the bush with the camouflage, head to toe camo on. So, I mean, ballsy for him to step out in that, but Ricky's probably one of the few guys that could really pull it off.
Yeah.
He's just got that swagger and persona to him. But I loved the memes that then started photoshopping Ricky out, and all you could see was like the golf club. And
the one in front of the trees, you see the one in front of the tees. It was just his hands, his head.
Good.
Hilarious.
The internet wins again.
Yeah. Overall, I think the tournament was excellent. They seem to have corrected from the last couple of years where it was getting a little bit out of hand. I didn't see a lot of
looseness,
crazy, super looseness. We obviously had that hole in one. The crowd didn't get too rowdy. So I think that's probably, they're towing the line, but great event, really good.
Great event. Definitely one of the best events in the PGA Tour season.
Yeah,
I do think they'd been issuing instructions about not throwing stuff on 16. They still did throw some stuff
Yeah.
When that hole-in-one happened, when Grillo holed out on 16. But look, as you say, the looseness really wasn't there. We didn't see people getting into fights. We didn't see people doing mudslides with their shirts off and all that sort of garbage. So they definitely got the balance right this time.
All right. Other results over the weekend. Haotong Li won on the DP World Tour. Great to see him back in the winner's circle.
Yeah, I didn't see any of the Qatar Masters, but I heard he sunk a reasonably lengthy putt on 18 to clinch it. He certainly was an up-and-coming star there at one stage.
Yep.
Played his way onto the President's Cup team for Royal Melbourne in 2019, and then proceeded to pretty much put himself in the never-to-be-picked-again column. Just a really shitty team performance from him at that President's Cup. Certainly wasn't sort of the type of team player that you'd want to see. And then he's been in relative obscurity ever since. So to make a comeback and pick up another DP World Tour titles, sort of credit to the hard work he must have put in.
No one on the LPGA Tour. I guess notable from the Aussie perspective was Hannah Green with the T4.
Yeah, didn't catch any of this, but T4 for Hannah Green is a great result. It's still a pretty good leaderboard, as we always see in these LPGA. Nellie's in there, Angel Yin, Jin Young Ko. So not surprising that was another good event.
And then we had the Victorian Open on the Australian PGA Tour. It was the three formats, really, wasn't it? It was the ladies won by Suo. The men's was won by Josh Geary, who shot a final round 78 to finish 13 under par and 4 clear of the next.
Some crazy weather, hey?
Yeah.
At one point there where I was watching the broadcast, flag sticks almost bending sideways. It felt very much like it was, up in Scotland, right on an exposed coastline, which, of course, it's pretty exposed there, where it is. But good to see golf on that course, isn't it? We just want more of it, really. More great golf on great Aussie golf courses.
Yeah, absolutely. As the crow flies, it's about 40 k's from us. So driving into work this morning, there's trees down everywhere. It's still quite windy now. So the conditions would have been incredibly tough. I guess the fact that it's relatively common down here sort of points to the fact that greens, they generally keep a lot slower, which is why they can play in the conditions they had. If that was a PGA Tour, they're not playing.
Yeah, they just lose control of the greens, right? Because they've got them running too fast already.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get into some of the other stuff, some of the other happenings. So we saw through the weekend that Golf Australia is ending the mixed format of the Aussie Open.
Yes, and certainly has been welcomed online with, open arms. There's been lots of criticism of the Australian Open in recent years, the combined format of it, saying that ultimately it's compromised both events, the men's Open and the ladies Open, and so it's not been good for either men or the women. And we have seen courses that should play a lot differently, kind of to use Tron Carter's terms, the course has been neutered in order to make it playable for both sexes. So we're not seeing the best of what can be produced by either of those two events, and so we're certainly likely to see new dates and new courses announced, hopefully reasonably soon. Whilst on the point of Tron, he went further to sort of say that Sutherland should be axed as CEO as well for the damage that he's created in the way that these events have been hosted recently. And I've got to say there was lots of hate online for Sutherland, both in his role at Golf Australia and the state that he left Cricket Australia as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think probably more of interest to me will be the women's Aussie Open to see how they go, because I was sort of indicated that they came together just for the funding for that one particularly. But I think probably Cam Smith and a few others forced the hand here, because I don't think they were turning up next year if it was happening again.
No, they'd made it pretty clear, before Christmas that changes were needed and that it had to be seriously looked at. So anyway, that's going to be happening, and we just need the specifics of what courses and what dates the men's and women's opens will be held.
Yep, we've got a Rippers with LIV coming to town to Adelaide. We've got a Rippers and James Sutherland Australian Open or Golf Australia press conference lined up.
Yeah, I was intrigued when I saw this. I was thinking, what is this? Is this a big announcement? But then, a bit of a discussion on X, and maybe it's just going to be some sort of announcement where Ripper GC are making a contribution to Golf Australia for some sort of development fund, junior development fund. Whilst that would be good, and good for the junior development, will be disappointing, I think, or underwhelming if that's all it is. Hopefully, it's something bigger and better. But I guess we'll find out later this week.
Yeah, I thought most likely it would be from last year. They announced that Ripper were making a contribution to a new junior program. It was reported, I think, in the age around LIV time. It was never ever confirmed, so that was announced almost like it was fact, but there was no official sort of statement around it. So that the first thing I thought of was potentially that was where it was going. Whatever it's going to be, it can only be money going to Golf Australia's way. It's not going the other way.
And I guess this is what Sutherland will point to as his high points, right? I think he did sign a record broadcast deal at Cricket Australia when he was there, despite the fact that Sandpaper Gate happened under his watch, and that was handled abysmally in the aftermath of that. And really the culture and performance of the team was in the toilet under his leadership from there on. So, he'll certainly point to money there, and then maybe he'll point to money here. Who knows what this, announcement is going to be. But if it is more money in the coffers of Golf Australia, well, then he'll certainly be claiming that as his legacy rather than, the destruction and diminishment of both the Australian and women's Australian Opens.
Yep. We saw an announcement from the PGA Tour that Jay and American patriot Adam Scott attended the White House to meet with Trump.
I just was shocked at this, right? The PGA Tour shunned Trump in his first term as president, and here they are sucking up to him now. Jay's up at the White House kissing ass. Unfortunately, Adam Scott's there having to discharge his duties as a player director, but getting caught up in this. I don't think it's a good look for Scotty to be anywhere near Big J. But anyway, they've impressed upon the president that he needs to get involved and for the good of the game, try and help reconcile the game of golf and progress the deal between the Saudi Arabian PIF and PGA Tour enterprises. So yeah, it was interesting. The press release came out. It's got Big J's name on it, Adam Scott's name on it, and Tiger's name, of course. Even though he wasn't at the meeting, he's still got to be on everything, doesn't he?
He does. And him and Charlie played golf with Trump this morning before they all went off to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that was the rumor, wasn't it? That Tiger shot 65, young Charlie shot a 70, and Trump shot 71. Which score do you believe less, Tiger shooting 65 or Trump shooting 71?
Does it matter which one you believe less? Oh.
I don't know what course it was. Did you see?
It was somewhere in Palm Beach, I think.
Yeah,
I think
it probably was one of Trump's.
Yeah. It was Trump's.
Yeah.
Trump's. Yep. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if anything happens there. It's hard for me. I can't read the situation so much there because Trump has been very anti PGA Tour in the past, um, seemingly sort of pro live, pro PIF, but he's also a patriot. So everything seems to be
He
for the
is.
betterment of the US.
Above all, is probably pro-Trump. So
Yeah.
if there's an angle for him to profiteer from some sort of deal here, then or not him personally, but the family business, which of course he'll be dealing with at arm's length, right? If there's an angle here, then I don't think he's going to let that get in the way of making a deal. But you're right, he's certainly been more aligned with Norman, with Saudi Arabia, and with LIV than he has the PGA Tour, because they effectively wiped him when he became president, and it was unfashionable at the time to be a Trump supporter.
Yep. So I think this is going to need to be spun in a way that it's good for America, is I guess what I'm saying.
Yep.
So I don't know what it means.
He'll find an angle.
Yep. I guess off the back of that, we saw the Golf Channel discussing the specifics of this. Brandel essentially admitting that he'd played golf with Trump last year and he changed his mind on Yassi.
Yeah, what did you take on what was your take on Brandel's about face? What did he say? He pleaded, Trump had pleaded with Brandel to hear him out, and talked about Saudi Arabia wanting to change the nature of its economy from an oil economy to a tourism economy, and that Yassir loved golf more than both of them combined, and that Brandel said by the end of the conversation Trump had been able to change his mind, and it made him think about Yassir as being a true partner of the game of golf rather than looking for a economic opportunity. Did you buy it?
No, I didn't. And I don't know how it can be reconciled, because like on the 3rd of February, he's responding to a Phil tweet or there's news of Phil saying stuff, and he's still referring to it as a murderous regime. Now, if he's referring to it as a murderous regime, and then trying to say that Trump has changed his mind on Yassir, who is the leader of that murderous regime, it just doesn't. The two don't match. You can't say both of those things.
Yeah, it's amazing how people can rationalize things when they can see their paycheck at risk.
Yeah. Well, he's now like he's sort of tweeting. His position on LIV hasn't changed, but like it was never LIV that he had the problem with. It was the source of the money.
Correct.
It was the PIF. It was MBS.
Yep.
And there were ties he would have shared. I haven't looked, so maybe don't quote me, but I'm sure he would have shared the fact that when this was at it sort of in the heat of battle, that Yassir was tied to the murders of Khashoggi.
Oh, definitely. All of that stuff. Well, I do remember him making reference to Khashoggi's murder, and the close ties between Yassir and MBS. In fact, that they were just part of his, routine rants about it, and the moralizing about why you could never accept $1 because it was blood money. I mean, I can understand him coming to the realization that these guys aren't going away, and they've got more money than the PGA Tour can ever find. And so it's a case of work with them or die, because they'll eventually, they can outlast you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I can understand him coming to that realization. But I don't think anyone's buying his about face. I don't think anyone's forgotten all of the hyperbolic comments he's made about the PIF, about LIV, and about Saudi Arabia, and all the hypocrisy that he has given a pass to for all the other interests that Aramco and other Saudi Arabian companies have in golf, world golf and world sport. So he just looks like a clown, and it's probably not that surprising to see in the end. He's been backed into a corner, and he's just as I say, I feel like he's singing for his supper now because he's worried about his paycheck evaporating if a deal is done.
Yeah, he was just so vicious about it. But it's my big. I've got no problem with people changing their mind.
Yeah.
With more information. But he didn't. He didn't even allow himself to have the opportunity to take any other stance than what he did. Just the ferocity and just how vicious he was against everybody involved.
Yeah.
At this point, if he's going to soften his stance, I think an apology is owed to all those people, like the Phil Mickelson to Koepka.
And he took the same approach and play that Jay did. Was we can squash this just by coming out and all guns blazing, just moralize them off the field. And we saw Jay that with the 9/11 families and all that carry on, and then when he signed the framework agreement, like he lost every shred of credibility that he had left.
Yep.
And, I think the same is probably the case here for Chamblee, although he's lost a lot of credibility along the way, as did Jay.
Like I've always been, I like a lot of what he does. He's had that little blind spot, or not even a blind spot. Maybe it's exactly how he felt. But, if he wanted to stand up to his principles, he would just quit if it got to the point where he had to accept and work with them. So I don't think it's that, as you say, it's singing for his supper. But nonetheless, he will find a way to justify it and we'll move on.
I agree.
Yeah. So I spoke about the ITV deal. That sort of kicked off from round 2 at 3 p.m, I think. It's great news. That's the only live golf on free-to-air TV in the UK. So I think that's positive.
Yeah, and I have a recollection there was something going on with Sky as well, but maybe that hasn't come to fruition because I remember thinking that Jamie Weir was going to be sick to his stomach, having to cover LIV on Sky Sports Golf. But yeah, the ITV deal, stream for free in the UK, will give another channel for LIV to get out there, and despite the fact that the viewership at the moment might not be where they'd like it to be, they are building momentum in multiple jurisdictions around the world, and these things will take time.
Yep, just constant growth. That's how you measure the success really now. Yep. It's just a constant improvement. Okay, so the RNA are following USGA's lead. Reportedly, it's not confirmed yet, but the RNA are seemingly going to open up at least a spot for a live golfer.
Yeah, and I think Flushing It was reporting on this, and following the lead set by the USGA, which I think is going to give the highest non-exempt player in the top 3 on LIV an exemption. Does that go far enough? Just the one sort of special invite? You'd have to think there's gonna like that. I know they've got the open qualifying for both of those tournaments, so they can go through that. But sort of just one doesn't seem to really be enough, given the quality of talent on.
No, and that next year will move to 2, so it'll be the season-long winner on LIV will get the exemption as well. So potentially 2. I think what is interesting from my perspective, the DP World Tour only has 3 exemptions, but they're essentially it just goes to the highest player available that is not exempt already. So there's not that additional that conditional top 3 sort of thing. So I think that is a little bit hypocritical or a little bit sort of not fantastic, but realistically, I think this will be adjusted as needed. So as we see some of the very best in the world on LIV lose their exemptions into majors, I think the majors will find a way to get them back in.
Well, let's hope so, because we do want common sense to prevail. We want the best players playing in the majors, and I don't really care what pathway they get there, just so long as they get there. And we have seen things moving in that direction progressively over the last, 12 to 24 months. So this is another step in the right direction, and let's hope it continues.
Yep. I think there is realistic, if we look at last season, like maybe there's probably two golfers that probably realistically should have been in a lot of the majors. So Sergio was playing quite well. So, and maybe Louis Oosthuizen would be the other one outside of Neiman. So I think let's consider the fact that LIV are not going to get OWGR points, and the majors are going to continue to use that as their main sort of qualifying criteria. There are going to be guys on LIV who probably are worthy of an exemption into majors that are not going to have them without working their ass off.
Yep.
But I think that's now is just like they've signed for LIV. There are other benefits.
Yeah.
The fact that they've signed to them. So.
That's probably true. And if you're Neiman, you can't keep grinding on the qualification side of things year after year. So you're just going to have to go out and win one.
Yeah, correct. And someone like a Taylor Gooch, who might be good enough to be in all the majors, it doesn't matter if he's in a major or not, because he's not going to compete at the top of the. So I don't think the majors are any less for not having someone like a Taylor Gooch.
No, I think that's right. And if you Gooch, I think you've got to be thinking you top the market. You took the money when you should have taken it. Yeah. And okay, maybe you missed out on a couple of majors in year one or maybe year two that you should have been in.
Yeah. That year he was playing well enough to probably contend in some of the majors. But he still took advantage of that, the fact that he won 3 times in a year on LIV and earned more money than nearly everybody else in golf.
The guys who I feel sorry for will be the sort of the young South Americans that were promised OWGR points that haven't got majors, and they don't have enough ranking to be able to get themselves in, and so that's a big disappointment for them.
They'll have to work hard, no doubt, but like I think it's still relatively easy to do. Like not easy, but like the cream of the crop that we've seen, like Pooch, Neiman, they've both found their way into majors.
And look, someone like Mito or Ortiz, whilst they've got the talent, and I mean we saw Mito almost win a PGA championship, they haven't really played well enough to kind of warrant a special exemption. So they should be grinding on the qualification side, shouldn't they? Yep.
I think they'll just have to work hard, and that will just be if you want to go to LIV, like that's the way, and you want to be in majors, then you're going
to be playing a lot on the Asian Tour and the DP World Tour.
Yeah, and you're going to be performing, because otherwise you're not playing in any majors. It just won't be a free ride into the majors. But to me, like that's just like Brooks Koepka says, you got 80 people in an event at the Masters. There's probably only 20 people who can win.
100%.
Yep. Reporting that LIV are removing shorts.
Yeah, I was surprised to read this. So Matt Vincenzi was reporting that there'll be a no shorts rule implemented on LIV at some stage this season. That really surprises me. Have a look at some of the places that they're playing. Riyadh, Singapore. They're probably just going to narrowly miss a heat wave in Adelaide this coming week. And I just got used to them playing in shorts, and I'm sure they probably have too. So I'm surprised there's not more of a revolt within the players if this is true.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of it, if it's a big deal or not. It's just weird to me. Like, I don't see why you would enforce them to wear pants. Like, I would love to hear the explanation. Yeah.
Wear what you want.
I don't think it looks unprofessional wearing pants. It looks more unprofessional to wear a kamikaze suit or a tracksuit like Jay Day's wearing.
I think that's right. So I'm not sure what the driver is here, if it's true. But certainly I'd be letting the players, wear what they want to wear in terms of shorts or longs.
Okay, so we saw Trumpies sort of walking around on the field at the Super Bowl.
The first president to attend the Super Bowl. Obviously, this is in honor of Super Bowl Monday, and as we mentioned earlier in the pod, got out for a game of golf with Tiger and with Charlie beforehand. So not a bad Super Bowl Sunday for Trump. Round of golf, off to the Super Bowl, shoot 71. Pretty handy, really. You probably won the club championship.
Yes. Yeah, sort of. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's interesting to know that no president's ever attended it.
I was shocked to hear that. I just find that bizarre. Surely someone attended in person prior to now, but apparently not.
Okay, moving to this week, we've got the Genesis Invitational at the relocated Torrey Pines. Tiger back playing and committed to that event. All the top golfers on the PGA Tour are there. Adam Scott, Cam Davis, Minwoo Lee, Jason Day in terms of the Aussies. And notably, Spieth got his sponsors exemption into that as well.
Yeah, so returning to Torrey Pines South, which we saw only sort of a handful of weeks ago. But it's not going to be the same, is it? The Genesis not being played at Riv, obviously because of the fires and the destruction that we've seen in Pacific Palisades. So we'll have to just sort of be consoled by the fact that we'll have a world-class field there. We won't be able to see infamous holes like the 10th at Riviera, but we'll still see some great golf and some horrible outfits too with J-Day in the field.
Yeah. It'll be good. I don't think Tiger makes the cut.
No, I don't think so either. Particularly, I think Torrey Pines is very undulating, and we've seen what happens when he plays at those courses that are a tough walk. So I'm not expecting big things from him, despite his 65 with Trump pre-Super Bowl.
I think that's a Rory McIlroy win.
Yeah, interesting. Why do you say that? You think he's trending?
Yeah, I think he's in pretty good form right now. Yeah, I think that looking at that number one position, and he's thinking, actually, I'm top dog.
Yeah, that's rightfully mine. I'm going to take it back, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I hope that we do see a real contender for the number one spot. Be good to see a shake-up, see some real fighting for the number one position.
Yep. Yeah. So that's going to be a good event. The other one obviously is DP World Tour and the LPGA Tour have both not got events on. So that's on the PGA Tour and LIV down in Adelaide, which I'm looking forward to. I'm flying over on Thursday morning and I'll be there for the full 3 days.
Yeah, so I'm hearing from the ground in Adelaide this morning that we've got a heat wave happening, 40-degree days, Monday through Wednesday, and it's really baking the course out. Also saw some Instagram footage of the roll on the green for the 12th there, the party hole. And she looks pretty slick already. So with, 3 40-degree days and already slick greens, things could get pretty dicey down there. So I suspect there's going to be plenty of water thrown into the course between now and then. I'd love to see them let the course play firm and fast.
Yeah.
The past 2 years we've seen the Grange probably play a lot easier because they've kept it, a lot softer than you'd probably expect to see. And I'm hoping that we'll see it in its natural environment and that this heat is sort of taking things away from their manipulation.
Yeah, so we're seeing this is 2 months earlier than what it has been previously. So it was still in the height of summer. And it's been a relatively hot summer down in the south as well. So yeah, it'd be hard pressed to see why the greens would be soft. So I think it's going to be pretty sort of firm and fast. Which
will make for a great tournament. we've certainly seen the winners be, I think they've been well and truly 20 under plus in prior years, haven't they? So across 3 rounds. So really, I mean, Gooch, I think he had back-to-back 61s in the year that he won. So I think it would be great to see it in bouncy conditions, and let's hope we get that. What are you looking forward most to? This will be your second or third year?
Third.
Going?
I've been to them all. So
yep.
yeah. No, just to see how they just continue to sort of build out the setup. Like, I think there's a few more viewing platforms this year again. They've added in a couple of different ticket zones as well. So yeah, it looks like there's more availability potentially. Like the Friday sold out in terms of all the grounds passes or all the sort of different grounds pass options. So that's going to be the bigger day, depending on if they're releasing the same number of tickets or not. Saturday, I think, will be the weakest, and Sunday, there's still grounds passes available, but I think it'll be pretty busy on the Sunday as well.
And what about corporate hospitality? I think they pretty much sold that out last year.
They did. It looks a lot more open this year.
Mm-hmm.
Just sort of, like the Shark Shack, which has been moved from the first green to the 9th, I think, has availability all 3 days. So that was sold out completely the last 2 years. So yeah, I think, I don't know what that means, how that, so, it'll be interesting to see if we get the same number as we do last year, if there's growth or if it shrinks a little bit, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's hard to know, and it's hard to know what the scheduling change is doing to it, because we're not that far away from Christmas.
Yep.
So people, they might be 2, 3, maybe less than a month back to work. So, it's a big effort to sort of then travel interstate, because I think from memory, 60% of attendees last year were interstate attendees.
Yep.
So, the proximity of this February event to Christmas might be, playing a hand in that. The hotter conditions might be playing a hand in it as well. So it will be a test for the event to see if it can continue, because it's certainly grown from year 1 to year 2. To grow again into year 3 would be a big step.
Yeah, all indications are that it's going to be really well supported from interstate. Like, flights are super expensive. You're probably talking $600 return from Melbourne.
Yeah, from Melbourne.
It's an hour flight. Sydney is pretty much all sold out as well. All the accommodation in Adelaide's pretty expensive what's left. So, like, the indications are it'll be very well supported, and it's just interesting to see if it's going to be larger or at a similar size.
And are you pumped for Fisher?
Well, yeah, apparently I should be more pumped for the Friday night, Dom Dollar.
Oh, my goodness. I have no idea who that is, but anyway.
Me either. What will be interesting, so the last 2 seasons it has been outside of daylight savings. So this year we're inside daylight savings, and the event kickoff is around the same time as the previous 2 years. So these concerts aren't going to be anywhere near as spectacular in terms of photos being shared, because it's going to be pretty daylight.
Yeah, still be quite daylight, won't it?
Yep. I think Dom Dollar is kicking off at 7 p.m. and you've still got a couple of hours of daylight there. So, I think that we won't see some of the spectacular sort of crowd images that we saw on socials last year.
Well, I look forward to seeing your footage of Dom Dollar, and muscle your way in, get some sort of media pass, or muscle your way into the clubhouse, or into the corporate tent behind 12 green.
Yeah, well, I've signed up for the Rippers VIP pass.
So what's that get you?
I don't know. I think it's a couple of tickets into Club 54 and a meet and greet with the Rippers.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. Maybe I've got to win it first.
Well, ask Smithy to come on the pod.
I will.
Do it. Just throw it out there. What can he say?
Yeah.
Tell him that your co-host is a Maroons and Broncos supporter. Yep. Definitely throw that out there.
All right.
And that you and I will take on him and Adam Reynolds in a 4-ball at RQ.
Okay. Okay.
Throw
Actually,
that out there.
on Smithy, he I saw on YouTube last night. He played 3 or 4 holes with some American fullback or something like that golfer. Did you see that at all?
No, didn't see
No.
that.
Okay, that was quite interesting. It was just a YouTuber. I think he was I don't know what, he's played NFL or something like that, but he's a decent golfer. But that was quite interesting, just hearing some of the questions or some of the chat he had with Smith there. I think we've said it already, but I think Smith's going to have a big year this year.
Yeah, I'm hoping Smithy can really reach his heights again. He's due. And I think it's a testing year for him, right? As to whether he's still got the right stuff.
Yep.
We really hope that he does.
Yep, absolutely. All right, that's us out. Thanks for tuning in. We'll speak again next week.